Now back to the show. This is The Law Show on CL 650.
Ending on a high note there, Dwayne. Well done. Picking refugee Tom Petty. His first hit, by the way, 1979, I think. We'll get Dwayne to look that up. We'll see if we're right. All right, we're talking about the refugee situation. It was a year ago. Liberals came into power, said, yeah, we're doing the green light, 25,000 by the end of the year. It didn't happen. They pushed it into the new year, but the 25 did arrive. Where are we with the numbers? Have we seen an increase? The promise was more coming. So what do you know about that?
Yeah, my understanding is that they've now landed close to 30,000 immigrants, 30,000 refugees that have been resettled from overseas. So the way that these people get here is either the government says that they're going to take care of them for 1 year, or there's also a portion of that is what we call private sponsorships, where groups of 5 can get together and sponsor a refugee, or there are what we call agreement holders, such as churches that have already been vetted by the government that are able to sponsor refugees.
And you did this personally, right?
Yeah.
With your church?
Yeah, our church, Christ Redeemer on the North Shore, we basically signed up to sponsor 3 different families, and they arrived in February. Two of the families arrived in February with very little notice. I think the first family had about 2 weeks' notice when they were going to arrive. They arrived, it was a couple with 3 kids, and then his brother arrived that we were also sponsoring, and he had 2 kids and arrived 2 weeks later. So we were very lucky. We were able to find a place for them to
and how are they doing?
They're doing fantastic. They each have jobs in the area that they were trained in. They're both machinists, so they both have jobs as machinists now. The kids are in school. They seem to be adjusting well to school. I saw them all on Saturday, both families together. We had a big meeting with a bunch of other refugees. The Archdiocese, so it was through the Catholic Church, and the Archdiocese in the Lower Mainland is set to bring in about 400 refugees this year. So that's going to be the target.
It seems to me that the church organizations are the sort of the best set up for this, because they've been doing this sort of work for many decades, helping communities out, and they seem to have a pretty good setup for that, whether it's Roman Catholic or whatever group is.
There's a limited number. I don't think there's an unlimited number. I mean, you're looking at the Mennonite Central Committee, essentially, the United Church.
There's about 30 different.
There's about 30.
There are 30 different agreement holders
because they're pooling resources.
That's right.
From their. Their congregation, right?
Yeah, but the way it usually works is, at least with the Catholic Church, I mean, the Archdiocese signs the agreement, but then they go to the parish, and the parish has to step up and find the money, right?
Yeah.
They got to raise, and also the people.
But that's a group of people all pulling on the rope in the same direction, getting money in.
And with a commitment, believe that's something that they should be doing, right? And so, I mean.
And the other thing is that you're leveraging existing social agencies that that are playing a role in each of these, within the umbrella of these church organizations, that has some facility to assist newcomers anyway, because they're doing it, or because, in any event, or because they have some institutional knowledge of the
that's
needs
what I'm
of
saying. These things have been done in the past.
That's right.
They sort of know the roadmap a little bit, right?
Yeah.
So, the press I hear around this is quite positive. I mean, we have all of, counter to what's happened south of the border where, no ban all Muslims, all that stuff that happened during the election. But in Canada, the opposite. And I think most Canadians were on board with this. These people had a lot of hardship, bring them into the country. And I haven't really heard anything negative about it.
I mean, the cost on this, though,
it was through the roof.
The financial cost is there, but there was also a human cost because of this sort of jumping the queue with the 25 Syrians. There were other groups, whether they be coming from Eritrea or Sudan or China,
refugees
that were already being sponsored. So people have signed up to sponsor these other families, right? So you can imagine an Eritrean family here whose brother is stuck in a camp somewhere in Nigeria or in and is sitting there. And they've filed the sponsorship, and normally that process might take a year or two. Well, all of a sudden, the entire quota and all the effort is given towards the Syrians. In our church, we've suffered from this because we had already signed up to sponsor an Iraqi Catholic family, and basically they're now sitting on the back burner, and we've been ready to have them arrive for years, and we don't know when they're going to arrive.
Which also compounded by the fact in a previous show we talked about the government's moving to maybe 305,000 people coming into the country. That includes refugees as well, right? So there's only so much processing power in Ottawa.
Yeah,
that's right.
And what happened the Liberal government, once they reached their 25,000, they basically sort of turned it off, and they were going to turn the tap off. And with all the interest that was created, a lot of groups of 5 and individuals had come forward basically to sort of step up and actually sponsor refugees. And then they were told by the government, well, we're going to change the program. So the government has extended the program, made it a lot easier to, in particular, sponsor Syrian refugees, because normally you need to have a UNHCR certificate that you actually are a refugee and be approved by the UNHCR first before you start the process.
They were taking them from camps, really, wasn't it? Because
no, not necessarily from camps. I think there's a misunderstanding with that they necessarily have to come from camps.
Okay.
Like our family didn't come from a camp. They were living in Jordan and not in a camp. So not all of them were coming from camps.
But a lot of them were in Jordan in camps, right? That was a major destination.
Yeah.
So where are we with this? You say we're at 30,000. It's going to just keep growing?
I think it's going to keep. I think. Yeah. I don't know if you'll see a 30,000 target for next year. We haven't heard that, but I think what they need to. What I'm seeing is they're trying to respond to the need that is to satisfy the people that have come forward, that have raised the money, got the group together. They're going to make sure that those people are satisfied, from what I'm hearing.
What you hear from where this was a very I think it had a very positive impact was on the processing civil servants themselves. To make this happen, this 30,000 or 25,000 originally, and then the rest of them later, you had to pool a lot of processing resources across multiple federal government agencies. And what happened was a lot of people whose job it has been to take a hard enforcement line were all of a sudden being grabbed and sent abroad to try to help process people to bring them in.
So they were looking at how to say yes instead of how to say no.
And
right?
from anecdotally talking to a lot of particularly Canada Border Services enforcement officers, they enjoyed their time immensely. They found it exhilarating, challenging, because they were working 12, 14, 16-hour days. And often, because a lot of these people were processed in Beirut and in Lebanon, they were in Lebanon doing this work. But nevertheless, they got to do something positive as opposed to being purely enforcement-minded. Right. And it worked a lot of wonders for morale in the federal government generally. And shows you, that there's an additional benefit to these types of big projects that have, that get the publicity, et cetera. It has this as a side benefit.
Well, it's almost that 3 degrees of separation. Like you personally at your church have contact with refugees, and then these people that all work in the civil servant then spread the word around about it. And so people get to know that there was a positive.
It's interesting. The U.S. has said they're looking at our sponsorship program, because we're the only country in the world that has a private sponsorship program where a group of 5 can get together and actually privately sponsor.
But didn't that start back with the Vietnamese boat people back in the 70s?
That was a government program.
Was it? Okay. Because I remember you had to sponsor as well.
It had the now somewhat politically incorrect title of the Indochina boat regulation or something.
So overall, you think it's been a positive experience?
I think it was a very positive experience.
I think how well the integration is going to go, I think is still a little bit out there. I'm hearing stories back in terms of finding accommodation for Syrians.
That's tough in big cities,
Well, especially you say you're Syrian, they tend to sort of, they're not being actually welcomed with open arms from landlords.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's good to get an update from you. We're speaking with Alex Stojkovic and Rudy Kisher from MKS Law in downtown Vancouver. Always great to talk to you. Always engaging and certainly lively. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks a lot, Zach.
That's it for The Law Show. I'm Zach Spencer. We'll speak to you next time right here on CIL 650.